Okay.
All right, so we're joined from the great city of Memphis, Tennessee, by my friend Wesley Channels, the State Farm Insurance agent, former Division I basketball player with the Austin Peay State University Governors, 7 years playing in Europe in professional basketball. Just all around great athlete, great person, and also business owner and in the finance career cluster. And we are in the finance career cluster. We've got a room full here with us at Velma Jackson High School. And we are recording this for our friends at Rosa Scott, Madison Central, Germantown High School, Ridgeland High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you, as always, for taking some time for us today to talk about your incredible career that you've had, and what all how insurance works. Because I think a lot of young people really don't have the full concept of why insurance is needed and why it's a great field to get into, because there's always a need for great insurance professionals in this country. So before we get into all that, um, let's start. Played basketball at Ridgeway High School there in Memphis, one of the story programs in Memphis, and then we actually got to Austin Peay at the same time in 2006.
Yep.
And you were a Division I basketball player. So tell us about coming out of high school and then going to Austin Peay, and how all that works being a student athlete, because it's not like high school where you can just show it when you want to, skip practice, go to class when you want to, skip school after the game because you're tired. There's a lot of more stuff involved in that.
Yeah. So first off, I have to give props to my high school coach because he prepared us. He ran this program similar to a college program. So um, in the preseason, we got up and had to be at the school at 4:30 in the morning uh, for conditioning season.
Woo.
When you were late, you had some type of punishment. If you didn't make your grades, you didn't play.
Wow.
So from that aspect, he prepared me going to school, and actually the conditioning and the physical part of the game wasn't that much of a tough transition for me because we worked really hard at my high school. From the time management standpoint, that was a transition because, in high school, you stay with your parents. They're gonna make sure you get up and you have to get out of the house. But in college, you're responsible for getting up yourself. If you don't get up and you don't show up to practice, there's consequences. So um, there was, I guess, a change there with the responsibilities of being responsible for yourself and only yourself. But sports wise and on the court, um, I have to say that my high school coach prepared us pretty well. But of course, there's bigger and better athletes when you move to that next level. So from that aspect, it was a change. But the approach and preparation, he prepared as well.
Yeah, and then and on top of that, having to stay eligible in the NCAA is because I always tell the story. I never forget when I was an undergrad at Southern Miss, the football team had played a game on ESPN the night before, and the next morning early, I'm walking to class, and the starting receiver walks right past me. I'm like, "Dude, you're already back?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I got back at 2:30, but I had to go to class." So it's
Yeah,
not like a lot of times in high school they're kind of easy. Yeah, you guys had a game last night. You can sleep in. College professors don't care. I
yeah,
mean,
it's
don't work with you
difficult.
if you're out of
It's
town, but if they got a test, everybody's taking the test, whether
is
you got back late or not.
exactly, and it's funny that you said that story because I remember getting back off of road trips and having to go to class, and I switched majors once because the first major that I picked it was kind of tough. I took up electrical engineering,
Yeah,
and it was just a little bit too demanding, so I ended up switching to computer science.
yeah.
So that it's very difficult being an athlete at that level and being responsible for going to class and keeping up, and still training and working out and working your body the way you have to compete at that level. So very difficult.
Yeah, and and you guys were playing in Kentucky, playing at Vanderbilt, playing, you guys had a game out in Colorado. So you guys were traveling the country, and then you're having to take care of business on campus as well. So for any of our athletes, whether they're male, female, even the cheerleaders, there's a lot of especially on the Division I level, but even on the smaller level, there's a lot of commitment that goes into college athletics that you don't really see in high school. And we're a small school where, maybe if you skip practice, maybe you can still get some playing time, but on the higher levels, there's always somebody looking to replace you. And then you had the unbelievable opportunity to play professional basketball. And I think it's important to talk about, even though you had a great career in Europe, and some of your highlights are just ridiculous, how you were just schooling the boys in these other countries. But yeah, a lot of kids think if I just play pro ball, I'll just have money the rest of my life, and it doesn't work like that. And
It
even
does.
though you did make a pretty good living over there, but you used that money and invest in it wisely to open your own business. So, talk a little bit about that experience in Europe because you lived in some really cool places.
Yeah, so I advise anyone if they can go and experience different cultures and countries to do it. It's eye-opening and it allows you to see how other people view the world, their traditions, their food, their architecture. It's just an amazing experience. So if it hadn't been for basketball, I don't know if I would have been able to see those things or even knew it was out there to try and go and explore. So anyone that likes traveling and loves seeing different things and cultures, I definitely recommend it. It helped me get a vision and uh, just know that there's more out there than just my local community and what you see when you're growing up. So I got inspired by some of the things that I seen in the different countries, and that ultimately fueled me wanting to be an entrepreneur. And I picked that up from going to Europe. And most of the small countries that I lived in, they were villages, and most of the people had to create their own business. They were responsible for the groceries or the auto repair, or it was a lot of small business, and that's how they operated. So it opens your eyes to I can start something as well.
That's awesome.
So that's what
Yeah,
I took away from it.
yeah, and that's a great segue because we've been in the business administration cluster, which entrepreneurs are a part of, but insurance is a big part of the financial cluster, which is our new cluster. So I think a lot, like I said, a lot of teenagers don't fully understand on one how insurance works and why you need insurance, and then obviously it's illegal to not have it in a lot of cases as well. So why don't you give us the basis of on how on why insurance is needed in the first place?
So a lot of people, when you don't know much about it, they look at it as a scam. Why do I have to pay so much in and I don't get to use it, or I may never use it? And I like to just help people understand that, hey, um, if something does happen, do you have 25,000 or 30,000 sitting aside to take care of that incident if it does occur? And they say no. Okay, well, you pay a small amount every month to make sure that if that event does take place, that it's taken care of for you. And I get the rebuttal of, well, I've never had a claim, or I've never been in an accident or a speeding ticket. Well, you have to think about it. If the insurance company is going to be in business and be able to pay out if something does happen for you, they have to collect money from everyone to be able to take care of these things. So just because you weren't in an accident or claim, um, it's a pool of resources that have to go into effect to be able to take care of everyone's claim. So if you have a claim and the insurance company can't renege, if you have a policy and you're paying, they have to pay out if you're at fault in that accident and you have those coverages. So just look at it. I like to tell people it's like building a puzzle, and uh, if someone came and broke down your puzzle, would it be nice to have some type of agreement that the puzzle will be rebuilt for you? You don't have to rebuild the puzzle yourself. That's what insurance is. Someone comes and ruins your puzzle or whatever you're building, they will come back and rebuild it for you. So you don't have to go through the struggle of getting back to that point.
Yeah, and that also goes with, even if you're not at fault, if somebody without insurance hits you, unfortunately, because they aren't taking care of it, you're on the hook for it then too.
Give me
So you
one
can be the
second. This phone is ringing in my ear.
go ahead,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay. There you go. I'm sorry about
Yeah,
that.
but you can be the safest driver in the world, but if somebody hits you and they're not insured, you have to have the insurance to cover the damages. Now, obviously, because you weren't at fault, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, but that's part of being insured when it comes to getting the insurance just as a driver, or even if somebody breaks in your house, you're gonna have to have that insurance. You can have the state of the art alarm system, but if somebody damages your property, again, it's not your fault. But that's things that the types of things that insurance will cover.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's funny you say that in Memphis we have a very high rate of uninsured drivers. So I do have some people that try to get a quote and they don't want to include the uninsured motorist coverage on there, and we don't allow that here at this office. Because hey, you get hit and they don't have insurance, it's a high probability that here in Memphis that they may drive off, and who's going to be responsible for that damage? If you don't have that coverage, you have to pay out of pocket. Well, that's a very small amount that you pay for that coverage on a monthly basis to make you whole in the event that someone hits you and they don't have insurance. So um, it actually happened to me. I was working under an agent and I was in the office and my office was right by the window and I hear a big boom and I'm thinking, man, someone just got hit hard. And I didn't think more about it until I went and to get to the car after work and I seen a big old dent on the driver's side and it ruined the whole driver's side, and all I could think of is I'm glad I had that coverage that I don't have to pay for this.
Yeah.
But it's an inconvenience, but that's when you realize that hey, I'm glad I do have insurance. You don't think it's a scam in those situations.
Yeah, and that's the thing, just because you have insurance doesn't mean you're irresponsible. It could be for water damage in your home. If a pipe breaks, if
Exactly.
unfortunately if a fire breaks out, and we talked,
Mold or whatever.
especially with
If
all the
things
tornadoes in this part of the country,
exactly.
if there's any tornado damage. So having that, just paying that little bit a month, can save you thousands and thousands and all kind of headaches when it comes to things. And also, unfortunately, people don't have life insurance and have to have GoFundMe's just to pay for burials. So
Yes,
even having that at a young age, that doesn't mean you think you're going to die, but
exactly.
in the unfortunate event that there is some type of tragedy, your family doesn't have the burden of having to spend all this money to take care of you or take care of your burial and your funeral, and then even to get on their feet.
Exactly. So um when I was younger, I thought, hey, I'm not about to pass away anytime soon. Why do I need life insurance? And someone reached out to me on LinkedIn, and she broke it down to me. If something happened to you right now, how long would your family survive? And the reality was not long. So you have to think about one, how are they going to handle your final expenses? It's not free to take care of your final expenses. Two, if something happens to you and you're the main breadwinner or you're responsible for some portion of the monthly expenses, what happens? For you to be taking care of that part of the monthly expenses, um, your income is needed. So what happens to that portion? Are they going to be able to take care of that? If you're purchasing a home or somewhere to live or you have children, they're going to need food, shelter, clothing. What happens if something happens to you? How long do you want that to be taken care of for them until they can provide for themselves?
Yep.
Um, if you want them to go to school, if something happens to you and you're unable to pay for their schooling, you would want them to still get the best education,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
You know, and then lastly, you want to leave your family in a situation where they have time to grieve and they don't have to worry about coming up with funds um, when they're dealing with your loss. That would be a traumatic time for them, and you don't want to add to that by them having to worry about money. You know, so that's why it's important, and it's better to get it when you're younger because you're taking advantage of rates. I tell everyone that I talk to about it. Today's price is always a discount compared to next year's price. No
Absolutely.
one ages in reverse. So um, that's what I try to make people aware of. And then I give them the story of when I was playing basketball overseas, when the lady first introduced me to it, I couldn't get life insurance because I lived out of the country. And
Wow.
most insurance companies, they didn't insure you if you lived in a different country because they don't know what you're exposed to, what type of animals, livestock, diseases. So by me not being able to get it, I knew that, hey, I probably need this if they won't allow me to get this while I'm over here, you know. So um, if you ever pay attention when you do get your first life policy, they're going to ask questions about if you plan on traveling, how long, you know. So um, anytime that they ask those type of questions, you should take a deeper look into it to see uh, if you need it, you know.
Yeah, and that's also a case when, a lot of these kids, especially when they, get in high school, they just get out of college, they see how much their paycheck is, and they want to have the highest paycheck possible. But I know you also deal with a lot of companies, a lot of company policies. If a company is offering to cover any type of insurance, I think you're absolutely outside of your mind if you don't at least include some of that um, as part of your benefits, because paying for it on your own is going to be way more expensive. So what are some common errors you've seen with that when people don't take up their company to provide something and then they get stuck with the cost?
So we don't, well, our office doesn't specifically do many company policies, but we always advise having something outside of your policy with your company,
Yeah.
something in addition, because we found in with COVID when that came around that a lot of jobs aren't guaranteed. Some companies had to go in different directions. Maybe you want to shift careers, start your own business. What happens to those benefits? Most of the time, they don't go with you. So it's always great to have something in addition to that. You definitely want to take advantage of company benefits because you're going to get a better rate because you're in a group. So always take advantage of that, but also have something in addition to it because you never know what may happen. You may shift careers or want to go in a different direction, and you don't want to have to stay somewhere dependent on something that will change if you leave there. So um, that's our view on that.
Yeah, and then also a lot of there's some policies that will stay with you no matter where your job is. And also paying for that additional coverage, I can tell you, you don't even miss that money. Because as somebody that had somebody in my family die of cancer, we were awfully thankful we had the cancer policy in our family, because it would have, it was still costly for us, but it would have been even more so had the cancer policy not been there, that we had in addition to the covers they already had. Because it's sad as it is already, to lose somebody, having that financial burden would have just been incredible for my mother. So having
Yeah.
that was huge. Now, before I get to the students' questions, I do want to talk briefly about, being an entrepreneur, because a lot of these young people say, I want to run my own business. I don't want to work for anybody else. I'm going to do it my way. And I always have the joke about, I'm such a big fan of Jasmine Sullivan. But in her song, it just drives me crazy that she says, I'm going to move to Atlanta, open my own business, and I'm going to be rich. And I mean, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you were very smart in the way you used your basketball money to invest in this business. But it's not just open the doors and start making money. So talk a little bit about the challenges, especially of a young Black business owner, Because when at the end of the day, you're calling the shots in that office. It starts and ends with you. So talk briefly about the challenges of that, because it's a goal for a lot of young people, but I don't think they realize how difficult it really is.
Yes, it's very difficult. Um, but I was fortunate that I was able to get an opportunity with State Farm. They have a great system for onboarding agents and training you. But most entrepreneurs, if they start something from the ground up, I can only imagine how difficult it is because having this great company with so many systems and processes in place, it has helped me tremendously. So I can't imagine starting something from the ground up and having to build it. But there's a lot of things that you have to take into account. Yeah, we all want to be our own boss and make unlimited income. But there's a lot of things that you have to account for. Being able to get it out there, paying for marketing expenses, where you're gonna have your business, taxes, insurance, um, training a team, finding people, training them. There's a lot of things that go into it. So I definitely advise finding a mentor or someone that's done it and ask a lot of questions and plan it out.
Yeah, and then also, and you got to look at the licensing, because I know you're licensed in Arkansas and Mississippi, which if you're in Memphis, you almost have to be because of the location of the city.
Yeah,
So
we're right there.
yeah, so and in other similar fields, you got to be licensed to. My mother's in real estate. If you're going to sell a house, let's say you live in Memphis, you want to sell real estate, you got to be licensed in all three states as well.
Yep, yep. Because we're right, our location is close to Arkansas and Mississippi, so when people want to migrate, um, you have to be able to accommodate for that, or they're going to go find someone else. So you want to be able to help them in those situations because it's a high probability if they move from here that they may go to one of those areas. So I definitely wanted to make sure I was licensed for all three.
Absolutely. And again, it's all about being competitive in a very competitive market.
Yep.
But I do have some questions from the students. I'll get to as many of these as I can. This first one is
Okay.
Jarvis
All right.
Lyles. He's in ninth grade, and he asks, "What is your main skill that you think nobody else has?"
I don't know if there's a skill that I have that no one else has, but I think that one of my best skills or attributes is um, being able to be consistent
Yeah.
in doing things that I don't necessarily like to do. So I think that that's one of my best attributes or
Yeah.
skills.
Well, that's a great point, because one thing I always say is sometimes in life you have to do things you don't want to do to live how you want to live. So it's
Absolutely.
an unfortunate truth. But if you really want to, I mean, and you're a perfect example. You can be as successful as you allow yourself to be. It's not always fun, and it's not always what you want to do to get there. But if that's your goal, it's going to have to happen. This is a good question. This is Amari Williams. He's in ninth grade, and he asked, "What should I consider when I am looking for car insurance?"
For car insurance, first you want to make sure that you have enough coverage to protect in the event that you get in an accident. So you want to make sure you have enough coverage to fix your car and replace your car. Also, you have to take a look at what is the average prices of vehicles that are driving around in my area. I want to make sure that I have enough coverage that if I hit one of those cars, that I don't have to come out of pocket after my coverage is exhausted. So the higher the limits that you can get, you'll be better protected. It may cost a little bit more. You may look at the price of, hey, I may have to pay $25 more a month, but that's a lot better than having to be responsible for a 15 or $20,000 bill because you don't have enough coverage. You
Absolutely.
also want to make sure that you have uninsured motorist coverage. So in the event someone hits you and they don't have insurance, you want to make sure you have that covered. Deductibles, that's what you pay before your insurance company steps in and fixes your car. The lower the deductible, the higher your monthly price will be. Uh, the more you're willing to pay out of pocket, So if you have $1,000 or $2,000 sitting around, just for that reason, you'll get a lower monthly rate if you go with a higher deductible. When you're younger, um, you may want to go with a higher deductible to get your price down because when you're a youthful driver, your rate's going to be a little bit higher. As you get older and you show that you're a responsible driver, you'll start to see those rates go down. The higher I've seen that if you don't just do the bare minimum, state minimum coverages and you go with a higher coverage, when other companies come and they try to solicit you and get your business, they're going to offer you better rates if they see that you understand that, hey, you need to have proper limits. If you have the state minimum, you know, sometimes you may get the higher rates.
Yeah.
Also, you want to make sure that you have continuous coverage. I see it a lot of times. If a young person has insurance and they have the higher rates and they let it lapse or they decide they can't afford it, you don't want to let your insurance lapse or cancel it. You want to keep your insurance in place. Always have something in place and shop around and try to get the lower rate to replace that. But when they see that you haven't had insurance, you're going to look like a risk that, hey, this person may not stay with us. If we sign them on for a lower rate, they may leave and we may not be able to collect the whole entire 6 month or year that
Right.
you were supposed to be with them.
Right.
So they take that into account because if they do have to pay out a claim, if they see that you never stay with a company longer than 2 or 3 months, they know that there's a great chance that if they have to pay out, they're not going to get that money back. So we have to give you a higher rate, So those are some of the things to keep in mind when looking for your policy.
Yeah. Now, this is a great segue to this next question. This is Rashunta Pierce, one of our basketball players here. And she asked, what are some things that could keep me from getting insurance?
Having tickets, getting in an accident, not keeping consistent insurance because those companies will see that, and sometimes our system will let us know, hey, um, we can't write this person. You know, your credit. You want to make sure that your credit is solid, because all of those things play a factor in them wanting to take a chance on insuring you and being willing to agree to pay out for you in the event something does happen in the future.
Yeah, and that's important. Once these kids turn 18, to really pay attention to that credit score. Now, it's not the end all be all of everything, but not paying a bunch of bills can really hurt you on the insurance side. It's, if you want to buy a home, you want to have a family, that homeowner's insurance is going to be skyrocket high if you were even able to get a mortgage loan in the first place. So that I know a lot of kids like, man, I'm not worried about that. That's something you got to at least be cognizant of. I just got one more
Yep.
for students. This is Jayla Chambers. And she asked, what is the biggest obstacles you faced building your own business?
Not knowing what I don't know. You know, you're gonna learn something every day, because I didn't come from, well, I played sports most of my adult life. So transitioning into insurance, I worked under an agent for a little while. But when I took that step to become the agent, there's something new uh, every other day that you have to learn, and you just have to be able to take from like sports. You have to adjust and adapt, and um, just learn from everything, so you can continuously improve and get better.
I agree. Now we're almost out of time, and again, we always thank you. Always thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, oh, it's always a pleasure. But with this, especially with this end of Black History Month today, I think it's just so great to see a young Black entrepreneur, not just right up the road. But before we go, just let these young people know, why does why does entrepreneurship need them, and why do they really need to pay attention to the insurance options they have once they get into their post high school life?
Um, I would say that it's very important. You want to prepare to, I guess I'm gonna put this in a sports term. You want to play offense, but you also want to play defense because if something does happen, you don't want to go all the way back to step one. So insurance is there to make sure that once you take 5 steps forward, you don't have to go all the way 5 steps back. Insurance is there to make sure you stay there in the event that something happens, and provide you protection that you don't put your family in a compromising position um, if you don't have it. So, and for the life insurance side, I think that this is very important. Um, I want people to shift their vision around it, and I'll give you a scenario. There's one person that can try to save $100,000 and something can happen to them on the way there. I don't know how life works for everyone else, but there's always going to be things that come out of nowhere. The car needs a repair, the home needs a repair, and the savings will go back down. Well, the person that has the life insurance, it's a part of their monthly expenses. It's a lot less. And if they don't pay out 100,000 over time and something happens to them, guess what? Their family's still going to get 100,000. So it's a way to make sure that my family's going to get 100,000 no matter if I'm able to last the amount of time that it would take to put that away. You
Yeah.
can secure that. You can make sure that that happens within a day. You can, as long as you put the application in and you qualify, you can secure that and guarantee that quickly.
I agree. Great stuff. And this was educational for me. So I really hope that our students paid attention, because even if they don't want to be an insurance agent, it's vital to know how insurance works as you move out of high school and into college or career, or whatever step you want to take. But again, Wesley Channels, all the way in Memphis, Tennessee, one of the best college basketball players I ever saw play in person. WesleyChannels.com is his State Farm site. He's got some great highlights of his college and pro days on YouTube. Just search Wesley Channels on YouTube. So again, as always, it's great to see you, and let's go Peay.
Let's go, Peay.
All right, see you, buddy.
All right, buddy.